Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivirajacharya Ashtotarashatashi Shrimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the simple devotees, all glories to the simple devotees, all glories to the simple devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Alright, so this morning we were reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, entitled Creation of the Fourth Order. Chapter 14, the story of King Vena. And we're on text 43. So you don't have a device, huh? That's alright. I'll just chant it once and then read the word by word. Vinishchit Yaivam Rishayo Vipannasya Mahipatehe Mamanto Urum Tarasa Tatrasid Bahu Ko Naraha. Alright, so please repeat. Vinishchitya, deciding. Evam, thus. Rishayaha, the great sages. Vipannasya, dead. Mahipatehe, of the king. Mamamantuhu, churned. Urum, the thighs. Tadasa, with specific power. Tatra, thereupon. Asit, was born. Bahukaha, of the name Bahuka, dwarf. Naraha, a person. Translation. After making a decision, the saintly persons and sages churn the thighs of the dead body of King Vena with great force and according to a specific method. As a result of this churning, a dwarf-like person was born from King Vena's body. Purport. That a person was born by the churning of the thighs of King Vena proves that the spirit soul is individual and separate from the body. Great sages and saintly persons could beget another person from the body of the dead King Vena, but it was not possible for them to bring King Vena back to life. King Vena was gone. It certainly had taken another body. The saintly persons and sages were only concerned with the body of Vena because it was a result of the seminal succession in the family of Maharaj Dhruva. Consequently, the ingredients by which another body could be produced were there in the body of King Vena. By a certain process, when the thighs of the dead body were churned, another body came out. Although dead, the body of King Vena was preserved by drugs and mantras chanted by King Vena's mother. In this way, the ingredients for the production of another body were there. When the body of the person named Bahuka came out of the dead body of King Vena, it was really not very astonishing. It was simply a question of knowing how to do it. From the semen of one body, another body is produced, and the life symptoms are visible due to the soul's taking shelter of this body. One should not think that it was impossible for another body to come out of the dead body of Maharaj Vena. This was performed by the skillful action of the sages. Okay, so we'll just read the next few verses. We'll finish the chapter. This person, born from King Vena's thighs, was named Bahuka, and his complexion was as black as a crow's. All the limbs of his body were very short, and his arms and legs were short, and his jaws were large. His nose was flat, his eyes were reddish, and his hair copper-colored. He was very submissive and meek, and immediately after his birth he bowed down and inquired, "Sirs, what shall I do?" The great sages replied, "Please sit down." Nishida. Thus Nishada, the father of the Nishada race, was born. Purport. It is said in the Shastras that the head of the body represents the Brahmins, and the arms represent the Kshatriyas, the abdomen represents the Vaishyas, and the legs, beginning with the thighs, represent the Shudras. The Shudras are sometimes called black, or Krishna. The Brahmins are called Shukla, or white, and the Kshatriyas and the Vaishyas are a mixture of black and white. However, those who are extraordinarily white are said to have skin produced out of white leprosy. It may be concluded that white or golden hue is the color of the higher caste, and black is the complexion of the Shudras. And so one more verse. After his, Nishada's, birth, he immediately took charge of all the resultant actions of King Vena's sinful activities. As such, this Nishada class are always engaged in sinful activities like stealing, plundering, and hunting. Consequently, they are only allowed to live in the hills and forests. Purport. The Nishadas are not allowed to live in the cities and towns because they are sinful by nature. As such, their bodies are very ugly and their occupations are also sinful. We should, however, know that even these sinful men, who are sometimes called Kiratas, can be delivered from their sinful condition to the topmost Vaishnava platform by the mercy of a pure devotee. Engagement in the transcendental loving service of the Lord can make anyone, however sinful he may be, fit to return home back to Godhead. One has only to become free from all contamination by the process of devotional service. In this way, everyone can become fit to return home back to Godhead. This is confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 32. Mam hiparta vipashitya he pisyu papayona yaha striyo vaishyas tata shudras tepiyanti param gatim. O son of Pritha, those who take shelter of me, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, merchants, as well as Shudras, workers, can approach the supreme destination. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 4th canto, 14th chapter of the Srimadbhagavatam, entitled The Story of King Vena. Saturday. Om Gatavarandasya Kadanjana Shalakaya Chakshuvanamilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Makam Kartavachalam Pangam Langate Gadim Yat Kirpatamaham Vande Shri Gurunditaranam Pancha Kalpare Vishta Kripa Sindhu Vayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gauda Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So does anyone have any questions? Can't take questions from the online audience, huh? Not yet? Okay. You're working on it? Okay. So, yeah, interesting verse here, text 43, that from King Vena's body, the sages churned it, whatever that exactly means. We're not sure. And from King Vena's body, a dwarf-like person came. And apparently that person was, said here, he accepted the sinful reactions he immediately took charge of the resultant actions of King Vena's sinful activities. So, yeah, the person came, he accepted the sinful reactions of King Vena, which were quite a lot. And then later, as we see, Maharaj Prithu will come and his wife. So they'll be the ones, specifically Maharaj Prithu, straight society again. So why exactly a dwarf-like person came out of King Vena's body before them, it also doesn't really state. But Prabhupada says in the purport that we should not think that was impossible, because, so many things almost seem impossible in this world, but or you could say quite amazing. And Prabhupada gives the example, just like anybody within this world, how they take birth, combination of man and woman, and then the whole process, and then taking birth as a young baby is baby is quite amazing. So similarly, this process of the sages churning King Vena's body, and then this personality come out, it seems quite amazing. But Prabhupada's making the point that so many things seem amazing or impossible, but even though they seem amazing and impossible, they are possible. And Prabhupada, one time he was giving a talk at a particular place, I'm not sure in the world, I forgot, but he was saying how there's eagles that fly, big eagles. We probably don't have any. Experience of such eagles, but the eagles, they fly from planet to planet, and they pick up elephants, and they drop them down, and whatever they do. Huge wings. So yeah, we don't have such experience. So Prabhupada was challenging his audience one time in relation to that, and then some boy said, "Oh, I don't understand how that's possible, Prabhupada, this and that," and Prabhupada said, "Oh, what do you know? You just came out of your mother's womb." So saying that, I mentioned this somewhat recently, but the point is interesting, that saying that, okay, well, what do you really know? You're a baby, you just came out of the womb. What do you really know? So just because something is out of our experience doesn't mean it automatically is not true. Prabhupada also says there's the Timangila fish. So the Timangila fish are said to swallow whales. Now we don't have such experience. I mean, I don't think anybody's postmodern people have seen such a species of life, this Timangila. Thank you. Hare Krishna. But nonetheless, Prabhupada said it's there, and the Vedic literature says it's there, so we accept it. So yeah, Bahuka said came from King Vena's body, and he said he's black as a crow, and it gives some description of his bodily characteristics, and it says from that this Nishada race was born. And Prabhupada then goes into explaining in the purport that how talking about the higher castes and the lower castes and so on, and he says the Brahmins are called Shukla or white, Kshatriyas or Vaishyas or mixture of black and white. However, those, and then he says it may be concluded that white or golden hue is the color of the higher caste and black is the complexion of Shudras. So does this necessarily mean that every person who is of a dark complexion is a Shudra? No, it doesn't mean that. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that Chaturvanamaya Shishtam Gunakarma Vibhagashaha. So by the qualities one has, by the work one performs, they may be considered a Shudra or Kshatriya or so on. Brahmin. So within every particular race or every particular society in the world, there are people who are inclined to Brahminical work and so on. And Prabhupada, coming to America and going all over the world, he'd initiate devotees as Brahmins and accept them as such. So it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone who has a dark complexion is a Shudra. There are plenty of other ethnic groups who have plenty of Shudras in those groups. So that doesn't necessarily mean that. So he says this Nishada race was born. Now, Prabhupada, sometimes they're called Kiratas. So there's a particular verse in the srimadbhagavatam, and it says that it says Kirata, Huns, and it gives a whole list of these different races according to the Sanskrit language. And in those particular in that particular description, it says that if any of these, according to any of these particular races, take shelter of a pure devotee of the Lord, pure devotee of Krishna, then they could become purified and go back to the spiritual world. So sometimes, if you look this up, Kiratas, Huns are referring to the Hungarians, and there's Kayastas or something that's referring to the Chinese, and so on. So these Kiratas, if you look them up in the Bhagavatam, in some places Srila Prabhupada refers to the Kiratas as a particular Indian ethnicity, or Indian ethnicity, a particular crowd of Indians coming from a particular place in India called Bihar. Srila Prabhupada relates these to those from Bihar. Now, in other places, Srila Prabhupada refers the Kirata as referring to those from Africa. So, and mostly when devotees read this, or when devotees hear this, these verses describing this dwarf coming out of Vena's body, and Nishada is he's the you could say, what does it say here? the father, that's what I thought, the father of the Nishada race was born. So generally people look at this verse and they're thinking, oh, it's referring to the Africans. So, so that's how, it's generally understood. Now, if it's generally understood to be referring to the Africans, okay, fine, that's there. And if it's sometime referring to from those from Bihar, okay, that's there. But clearly, we could see that this could be a little pinching for people. That, oh, you're saying that a particular race, because this is what the Bhagavatam is saying. And I could read these verses and purports and try to, try to somehow or other not mention what's being said in the purport and verses. But, I mean, if I'm giving class, I have to mention what's in the verse and purport. So it could be a little pinching that you're saying, oh, one class or one race of individuals are particularly inclined in a particular way. And this particular way in which they're inclined is not very highly esteemed in society, like sinful activities such as stealing, plundering, and hunting. So at least from a Krishna conscious point of view, or practically any point of view, if someone's a thief and a plunderer and a hunter, they may not be so appreciated in society. And therefore, in the verse it says, therefore they're only allowed to live in the hills and forests. So for people who are not of the Nishada race, however you want to translate that, it may not be very pinching for them. Oh, so what? I'm not part of the Nishada race. What does it matter to me? But those who consider themselves referring to the race that they're particular in, it could be very pinching, faith-breaking. Oh, why is the Bhagavatam saying this? And why is Srila Prabhupada mentioning such things in the purport? So, whatever the case is, if someone wants to accept that a particular race is generally inclined in a particular way, that's up to them. But at least as far as the Bhagavatam is stating, that's what it's stating. That particular races are inclined in particular ways. But nonetheless, Srila Prabhupada says that anyone, and of course he mentions another pinching thing here that Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita, Mam hi partha vipashritya yehi su papayonaha striyo vaisha tata shudras te piyanti param gatim. So those be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, and Shudras can approach the supreme destination. So there's many, you could say, categories of people that according to Krishna, according to the Bhagavad Gita, according to the Bhagavatam, it's considered a lower birth. And aside from that, Prabhupada would quote all the time that everybody in Kali Yuga is born a Shudra, because no family, practically speaking, is undergoing the samskaras that are supposed to happen before birth, the purificatory processes, and so on. So everyone more or less is in a disadvantaged position in Kali Yuga. But nonetheless, Krishna does say that lower birth. And that is considered, in lower birth is considered that means that it's more difficult for them to become detached from this material world. The inclination for sense gratification is stronger, and that's stated in Lord Kapila's, the teachings of Lord Kapila Dev. Srila Prabhupada says in the purports and in the verses that there's certain classes of people where the inclination for sense gratification is much stronger, whereas the Brahminical class, it's not that strong, being situated in the higher modes of goodness. And so from that point of view, it's a lower birth. But even if that's the case, if someone accepts that to be the case, many people may not, but if someone accepts that to be the case, whatever the case is, anyone and everyone could go back to the spiritual world, go back to Godhead. So the Bhagavatam is not a literature that is, it's not like a white supremacy literature or something. Oh, only the whites, or especially not the blacks or the African Americans or the Africans. They can't take to Krishna consciousness. It's not a racist literature or a woman-hating literature. But there may be some pinching statements in relation to, people may take it like that. But we should always note that Srila Prabhupada, he loved everybody. Why? Because ultimately everybody's not their body anyways. Everybody's a soul. So he loved every soul and every body. And Srila Prabhupada, if someone was to relate this Nishada race to the Africans, Srila Prabhupada himself went to Africa. He could have ditched Africa. He could have not went to Africa. He could have easily not went to Africa. He could have easily not came to America, preached to all the fallen souls over here. But on Prabhupada's own choice, Prabhupada went to Africa. He wasn't forced to go. And he was happy to do it. So he went to Africa with Shyamasundar Prabhu, and he was preaching at local university, Nairobi, 2,000 students, African, and they're all dancing and chanting. Prabhupada gave a lecture. And at one point, Prabhupada went to a Radha Krishna temple, because there's also a lot of Indians in Africa, and he gave a lecture at the temple there. And Srila Prabhupada told the devotees, because after the lecture there wasn't so many people, then Prabhupada told the devotees, you have to preach to the local Africans. He said, these Indians, they're good for, they could give some donations, and they could maybe give us a few contacts of people, but they think they know everything about Krishna. So you should preach to the local Africans. So Prabhupada said, you ran a center, and have kirtan, loud kirtan, and prasad, and and everybody will show up. So they did that. They opened the doors, and loud kirtan, prasad, and all the Africans came in. Population. And then devotees also say that they went to a local park to do Harinam. And they're all white. 5 white devotees. And devotees were saying, Shyamasundar said he was absolutely just completely in fear of the whole experience, because he didn't know what was going to happen. They're going to attack him or what, And he said he saw some African guy walking by with a zebra on his back, a dead zebra, with the blood, running down his back. So he saw it. It was like, oh my God, he doesn't know what's going to happen, because also socially at that particular point, some Africans, they didn't have much appreciation for, the other, some white people or something. Some of them. So they were scared. So they just went and they did Harinam, and they closed their eyes, and they're doing Harinam. And then they opened their eyes, and then there was like 100 African people in the park, dancing and getting into the kirtan. They liked the kirtan that they were having. So yeah, then Prabhupada, did some more preaching there, and then he left. So, if someone wants to claim, oh, Prabhupada, he was, he was against certain, races or anything, because people say so many, nonsensical things. There's many nonsensical people in this world, so they say many nonsensical things. But from that, we could see that Prabhupada, he cared about Africa. He wanted temples to be in Africa, and we do have temples in Africa, so it's not that he was against anyone. So, however one wants to look at these verses and interpret these verses, or see these verses, or perceive these verses within a person's mind, the main point is that we should know that the devotee, that Krishna, that the Bhagavatam, that the devotees, that the acharyas, they want everyone to become Krishna conscious. whether they're considered low birth, high birth, this, race, that race. It doesn't matter. But if they take shelter of a pure devotee, they could become purified and go back to the spiritual world. All right. So tomorrow is chapter 15. Saturday, chapter 15, we'll read a few verses, and then on Sunday we'll go to verse 4. Okay, so does anyone have any questions or comments? All right, well maybe we could just continue reading a little bit more, so I could make a little bit more progress. There's a few more minutes. All right, so this is chapter 15, King Prithu's appearance and coronation. Okay, the great sage Maitreya continued. My dear Vidura, thus the Brahmins and the great sages again churned the two arms of King Vena's dead body. As a result, a male and female couple came out of his arms. The great sages were highly learned in Vedic knowledge. When they saw the male and female born of the arms of Vena's body, they were very pleased, for they could understand that the couple was an expansion of a plenary portion of Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. The method adopted by the great sages and scholars who were learned in Vedic knowledge was perfect. They removed all the reactions of King Vena's sinful activities by seeing that King Vena first gave birth to Bahuka, described in the previous chapter. After King Vena's body was thus purified, a male and a female came out of it, and the great sages could understand that this was an expansion of Lord Vishnu. This expansion, of course, was not Vishnu Tattva, but a specifically empowered expansion of Lord Vishnu known as Avesh. The great sages said, the male is a plenary expansion of the power of Lord Vishnu, who maintains the entire universe, and the female is a plenary expansion of the goddess of fortune, who is never separated from the Lord. Purport. The significance of the goddess of fortune's never being separated from the Lord is clearly mentioned herein. People in the material world are very fond of the goddess of fortune, and they want her favor in the form of riches. They should know, however, that the goddess of fortune is inseparable from Lord Vishnu. Materialists should understand that the goddess of fortune should be worshipped along with Lord Vishnu and should not be regarded separately. Materialists seeking the favor of the goddess of fortune must worship Lord Vishnu and Lakshmi together. Worship them together. Materialists seeking the favor of the goddess must worship Lord Vishnu and Lakshmi together to maintain material opulence. If a materialist follows the policy of Ravana, who wanted to separate Sita from Lord Ramchandra, the process of separation will vanquish him. Those who are very rich and have taken favor of the goddess of fortune in this world must engage their money in the service of the Lord. In this way they can continue in their opulent position without disturbance. So Prithu Maharaj came, and his wife, which doesn't say the name at this point, maybe in the future, but may not even say her name, but is considered the goddess of, Archie, her name's Archie. So Prithu Maharaj and Archie came out from Vena's body, first Bahuka, and then Prithu and Archie. And this was due to the sage's plan, because they were seeing such a horrible disturbances within society, and all the chaos that was going on, all the thieves and rogues coming out and plundering everybody, and no government means a lot of chaos a lot of the times, unless everybody's pure devotees. So Prithu Maharaj and Archie came as from sprouting from or springing from the desire, the pure desires of the sages. And in these verses in purport, it's explaining that the goddess of Archie is the goddess of fortune, the planetary expansion of the goddess of fortune, who's never separated from the Lord. So yeah, people in this world, they're very mad after Lakshmi, or money, because money is you could say, the medium in which enjoyment can be had. Without money, it's very difficult to enjoy. Although, even if one doesn't have money, they still try to enjoy, but it's very difficult. For example, those who are homeless, a lot of the time they don't have a lot of money. They may have some EBT card, or, I don't know, eat at the local churches or something. But you could say that in many ways their enjoyment is limited. You could say in many ways it's limited. Not living in a nice house, not eating nice food, or not eating the food one wants. You have to just eat what people give you at the local churches. Not being able to travel extensively, so many things. Maybe not being respected in society. So on a material platform, there's not much enjoyment. So obviously it's clear to everybody that if one wants to enjoy materially, they need money. But if one tries to enjoy the money or the energy of Krishna separately, or Lakshmi without Krishna, then one will be vanquished just like Ravana. So in other words, what Prabhupada is encouraging us to do is to be Krishna conscious and to not try to enjoy the material energy separate from Krishna, which is quite challenging sometimes because of our material conditioning. We have a tendency to enjoy this material world and forget about Krishna. But we should try, and if we fail, we should try some more, and if we fail, we should try some more, to overcome our tendencies, our material tendencies to enjoy separately from Krishna, enjoy this material world, this material energy. So it's not very surprising that we fail, or that people fail sometimes. It's not very surprising. Practically speaking, failure is the nature of this world. To err is human, although sometimes humans don't like to err, but nonetheless, to err is human, to commit mistakes is human. And these failures, I was thinking about it recently, that they have a saying, failure is the pillar of success. It could be, right? Not all the time, but failure's the pillar of success. And I was thinking about that. How does that exactly work? How does that make sense? And I was thinking that, well, after so many failures, you'll definitely figure out what doesn't work. If I I'm thinking of this example. If I, wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I drink a gallon of sweet rice, and then I, eat 12 burfis, sweets, and then I, I guess that would be enough, right? To drink a gallon. Yeah, eat a gallon of sweet rice and 12 burfis, and then I try to engage myself in the morning program. Now, if I do that a few times, maybe I get a stomach ache, maybe, I get a sugar rush, maybe I get a headache, maybe I become sick and, throw up or something. So you could say that, vomit. So you could say that this failing, it's a pillar of success. Why? Because you realize what not to do in order for you to be successful. Okay, so if I want to have a successful morning program, I'm not going to drink a gallon of sweet rice and eat 12 burfis. I better not do that because I'm not going to have a successful morning program, right? So in that way, it's a pillar. So in other words, the experiences that we have in which we fail, we learn from them that, okay, if I do this, if I do this, if I do this, if I do this, it's not going to work. I'm not going to be happy. I'm not going to be Krishna conscious by doing those things. And therefore I'm not going to do them. Now, there's theoretical understanding of those points, but then there's actual application, because sometimes, although people realize that those things don't work and are not going to make them happy, but still people are forced to do it, whatever that may be. And that is stated in the Bhagavad Gita to be material desire or lust is that cause of that. So, but at least we could theoretically understand what steps are the wrong steps, and if taking those particular wrong steps, understanding that I won't be successful, we at least understand theoretically those things. And then when it comes to actually us taking the right steps, we should try. And we may fail doing that as well, but that could also be a pillar of success. So the main thing is that Prabhupada's encouraging us to not be a materialist, big Ravana or small Ravana, but to be devotees, which means engaging whatever we can ourselves in Krishna service, and in this way we're actually acting according to our nature, which by doing that we have a better chance of being happy, right? Because if we're acting according to our nature. Okay, so does anyone have any questions or comments? Yes, Glenn. Yeah. Yeah, the path or the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Yeah. Yeah, so that's the thing. Usually people, they're not so bad. I mean, people in general are not very bad. I mean, of course, there's some, bad people out there, some really twisted individuals, sure. Just look at the news, you find plenty of them. But in general, people are, pretty good-natured, I would say. But even though they're good-natured, that doesn't mean that everything they're doing is good. In other words, like you're saying, the path to hell is paved with good intentions. So people may have good intentions, but that may not be good enough. So therefore, we want to base all of our actions, we want to base our life on not just our good intentions, but we want to base our lives on the guidance of sadhu, saintly devotees, Shastra, the scripture, and Guru, the spiritual master. So whatever we do in our life, we may do this, we may do that, we may do that, we may do so many things, but we want to try to, and not only try, but we want to base whatever we're doing on the scripture, on the devotees, and on the Guru. Or else it'll just be kind of like our good intentions, which, I mean, it just doesn't really end up so good all the time. That's the problem. Like, people have so many good intentions, but, like, it's just, it just doesn't really work out. I mean, there's so many examples about that in relation to that. So, yeah, we want to be careful. So, all right. Joy, I think this flower is maybe staining this dhoti here, or at least, I don't know if it's going to stain it, but it's leaving some marks. So I don't know where these flowers came from, but I don't know. It's weird. Oh, these? Oh yeah, so they may stain. They're more powerful sometimes than the mass-produced flowers, you know. Alright, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.